Three? Are there 3 venues, or maybe only 2 venues? There's not very many venues left where you can actually go and play in a public location. So us and oh, maybe there aren't anymore. Who else is still open now? Sid will actually do by reservation, and it happens still on a semi-regular basis up in Minneapolis.
Yeah. I think we are.
Montreal closed.
We're the only.
New York City, I don't know that he's ever actually managed. He's not really public. It's more of a club.
Right.
Yeah, I think Pharaoh didn't have his in, and just thinking about the whole list of all the different people that have, because we know all of these people, and I think nobody else is actually open in a public space where you can just go in and be able to play.
Overriding question.
In 1.3 miles, turn right onto Bricklaw Road.
To be answered. Biocompatibility. It took half a day for the first visual surveys to start coming in. The local life on Vulcan was survived past 1 generation.
Houston city limits.
Of a mile, turn right onto West Little Rock Road.
Your parents not just eat fiber analogs for constructing realistic robots / androids. The comedy routine.
Turn left, then the destination is on your right.
Is it going to become a
Yeah,
habit,
there we
is it?
go.
I glared at the mini Garfield because I've got
Dirty
primary
fingers,
control of the
seafood.
plasma cannon.
Yuck.
Garfield grinned back at me.
Oh God,
Just imagine
that's a
how
terrible name for a restaurant.
Fucking A.
With decades of
That's
on the right,
humor
yeah.
to look forward to.
Laser tag.
Yep.
Yeah, maybe we should have sent some spare bombs along. I reached over and expanded the list window. Well, let's get started then. 21. Riker. January 2157. Seoul. If you start with 100 planets, remove the Jovians, remove the...
Hi. It's got fucking 7 displays in this thing. Okay. Good spot.
Would you choose one of the VR suites?
Oh, perfect. Oh wow, you've got quite the setup.
Yeah, this is so the things that were here already at Battlefield Houston. He's got the VR suites, and then it has all of the arcade games, and then I don't remember how big the laser tag arena is. 15,000 square feet, 2 stories.
Wow.
It's a big laser tag arena. So
All right. Well,
you have a lot of stuff you can do here.
Math off, I'm assuming.
it's up
That'd
to
be
you
a little bit
guys. I'm not gonna. No.
However, you guys are socially distant away from us.
Yes. If it's just the 2 of them, I'm gonna move this camera a little closer. Can you hold this for a second? Let me know when.
Looks good.
Okay. All right, great. And that's going?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, great. So tell me about yourselves. About who you are, your call signs,
in Japan. So there is still a set there. It's in private hands. It's not public. There's only three.
My name's Alan, I go by the call
Are there
sign
3
Roger.
venues or maybe only 2
And
venues?
I'm Steve. Call
There's
sign
not very many
Frog.
venues left where you can actually go and play in a public location. So us
And so we started up.
oh, maybe
what
there
is
aren't
now
anymore.
known as
Who else is
MechCorps.
still open now?
Canada.
Well,
So we
Sid
were
will actually do
regular
by
players
reservation,
played
and
a
it
lot
happens
over
still on a
at,
semi-regular basis
Dave and
up
Buster's.
in
And even before
Minneapolis.
that, where's that-
Montreal closed.
At, a place here in
New York
town
City, I don't know that he's ever
Silvana.
actually managed. He's
And,
not really
it was
public.
one
It's
of the
more of a
malls, and they had
club.
like a half Quonset
Yeah, I think
hut
we-
and all of
and-
the
yeah,
decor
Pharaoh
and
didn't
all that
have
kind of
his-
stuff, and actually
They call
Yeah,
it
the-
Battletech Outpost.
Yeah.
Just thinking about
Because
the
it
whole
wasn't
list of
a
all the different people that because we know all of these people.
Right.
So they had to
And
come
I
up with
think-
something else.
Yeah, so
I think
so if
nobody
you've
is
seen
actually-
the,
nobody else is
the
actually
history
open
of virtual world, there
in a
was
public
special
space where you can
edition
just go in
came out.
and be able to
So
play.
there were
Well, theoretically
world
any day, but
centers,
right now
then
we're only
this
open
one
on
was
Friday, Saturday,
different.
Sunday, just
It was
due
an
to the
outpost. Right, it was a little
the
bit
pandemic
different
side of
within
things.
within Exhilarama. And that
He
was
does
the,
have
the
other
older
people coming
style,
that need to
pods
come
we
in
call
here
the
in a
3.0
few
pods.
minutes.
So he's right-
So we
we
may
often call
actually
them
need
the
to
coffin pods.
Move somewhere else?
to move somewhere else. So we may see what we need to do if we need to move somewhere else.
Within that.
Um,
And so you were playing over
okay,
there
one more
and
question.
played that for
Plenty,
a while.
plenty of questions.
and
I'm
then-
happy to
Oh,
answer
great.
questions. Talk all night.
One of the things that I'm noticing
Went away.
with yourselves and Nick Smith and your
then,
volunteers here,
and then one
is
day,
that it's kind of like this.
I hear from him
the
that
company fell apart.
you
but
guys
then
all
these
need to come
people
over here
came
to Dave and
together
Buster's
try to
and
keep
come play this
the
game.
wheels on for as long as
Because he
possible.
had found it
Like, and it's,
actually up and running
I-
over at Dave and Buster's.
but-
Well, even so, when we picked up these pods, that was virtual world was selling it all off and was going to go away, and everybody came in and kept it going. And then even with we've thought about trying to shut things down, and it won't let us. So even the pandemic, it's like we're not going to be able to pay rent anymore. It's like, and so John's like, I'll cut this wall out and we'll turn this room in and we'll have a place for you guys to come and do it over here when this all blows over. So we've just not been able
But
to
basically, we got together
to shut it down,
Lots of people getting together,
which is
at
okay,
lunch
I
every
guess.
Friday. We
It's all
actually-
right. It's
from all
not
over
a
the
problem.
city.
I'd like to
Go
know a
over to
little
Dave
bit
Buster's
about
and meet at lunch
your
on
guys'
Friday.
relationship with the player
Because that was
community
the
that you've had
least
around here.
expensive
Like,
time, really, to actually play.
Yeah, the people that
We
you've
got
known
into
for
the
15
evening
years
hours,
because
the
of
prices
this.
went up. They actually.
Yeah, I would tell you that there's a
points, and
lot
the
of
points, and the
my
points were more expensive
friends
in
at this
in
point
those times, that kind of thing. So,
have come from
so we got
this.
together and played, and we did
You
that
find your
for
friends in the different things that you do.
years. That was 90.
And there's lots and lots of people that I know at this point that are
97, 6?
because of this
Yeah,
game
so-
and because of this
Yeah, so
the
we're
venues
talking
getting these things together.
years ago.
But even
and so we were-
I was gonna say there's
That's right.
3 folks
So
that we see
played
a lot
regularly doing that.
on the volunteer stuff,
But one
and
of
we
the-
met them in
one of the
Atlanta.
issues was that
It
they
turned
were
out that they
not,
lived down the road from where we were,
understand-
but they came and saw us at a convention in Atlanta, and they were like, "You're in Houston? We're in Houston. Where? Well, we just live down the road." And so the next thing you know, they're on the road with us, going all over the place. 2 of them get married. The other ones are, we go off and we meet other folks, and that introduces.
So
Yes,
in movies, there's production babies when there's MechCorps babies.
we actually have probably.
It's not about
We
being
may have like
outplayed
4
games and
MechCorps
people
marriages
that go play by themselves.
and a few
was a
MechCorps babies
multiplayer.
within all of
It's
that
not
that
Pac-Man.
have
It's
come
not something
together.
you can set up by yourself even.
Where people got
It's
together
something that requires
because
Got
of the game.
experience. And it's not
So I talked
something
to
that,
Nick briefly on
that
Tuesday,
you
and
at
he
the
was
game.
saying that
Every
when
time
he
you play,
purchased the
it's
company,
different.
he had some
It's,
plans,
it's
but that at this
something
point
that you're
he switched
doing.
to more of a
It's actually social
preservationist
activity.
mindset.
And so
and
that's
then
like
part
That's
of
right,
that
we're
is-
archivists.
Yes.
Monopoly. We don't do that in
and
Monopoly.
Storage room will prove that.
He's had so many people that loved these pods, but had no idea they were still around in any capacity.
Right.
So a lot of people are just not aware. And then on Wednesday, I visited the National Video Game Museum in Frisco. they have a VR exhibit, and there was not a single mention of any sort of device like this. It was all focused on head-mounted display type stuff.
Invitationals at other places around the country.
What can we do to preserve these and to convince people that it's worth preserving?
So I'll tell you, we need to go and answer that question somewhere else because he has people coming into the VR suite. So let's go out and let's answer that question somewhere else. He keeps walking behind you and going,
Sorry.
That just didn't understand how to build.
That's right. So here we are now in the pods. This is the pod. Bam! Yeah,
No.
switch into the pod.
We can do the 1, 2, 3 jump.
That's right.
1, 2, 3.
Now we're here.
Okay. Next part 2.
You were talking about preserving.
Preservation. Yes, I'm talking, and not just, but part of preservation is making people aware,
Right.
that these are important and that they should be preserved. So how to spread that word?
Yeah, and for us, a lot of that has been going to the conventions. The conventions have been that major way that people hear about us and know that they're still there, or become first aware that they're around. But doing that, keeping the store up and running, keeping it where people can still come and do things here. Those are the important things. Those are things that are important to us to make sure that we can keep this around and keep it going. And so it's been I don't know. It's just kind of a labor of love to keep it all going. Make sure that we keep the history of it going. That we do things like this, doing this video where we can actually talk about it. I don't know, 100 times I've sat down and told this story somewhere to different folks as we go, and it's important. It's an important piece of I don't know, technology history, different things like that. If you watch the special that with the 30 years that we just came up, going and seeing where Tim Disney got involved and those kind of things. It's a great story. It's a story of people who wouldn't give up on a dream, a crazy dream that they didn't have enough money to do, and somehow managed to get done. And so we're trying to figure out how do we continue to keep it alive, keep it going, without necessarily enough income to be able to do that. Sometimes it's just one of those things. It's what we want to do, so we're keeping it happen.
One of the reasons I find this so fascinating is that you can see traits that would later become much more popular and normalized. They were very ahead of their time in a lot of ways. What would you like to? What ways would you say they were ahead of their time?
And so we said,
being able to have a full cockpit, to be able to actually understand that you could have things running in how a real world situation would be. It's interesting because we'll get younger kids who come in who've been playing video games all their lives, and they don't know how to do anything that's not using a controller like this, and they are just totally lost when it's like, what, and they just, it's like, look, you know how to just subtly use your thumb on something, just take it easy and use. And it's that same thing of going into from the digital realm to the analog realm and being able to provide that and get through that. What other things would be? I mean, the MFDs that are in here, right? So there's 3 MFDs in here. There are 5 MFDs in here, 3 at the top, 2 at the bottom. Those are black and white 5-inch CRT TVs with a piece of green plexiglass over it. And all 5 of them run off of one video feed. So there's one video feed where the left side of the screen is going to the I don't remember now, top ones or the bottom ones, and the right side is going to the others. And we're actually taking and splitting in a cable the red off to one monitor, the blue off to another monitor, the green off to another monitor. But as they go in here onto a black and white TV, they all show up as white, put a green plexi on it, and now it looks great, right? And so we're able to do things like that that was a really great idea for somebody to come up with in the 90s to figure out how to be able to make these things work, to be able to do that. That was. You have to realize also when the 3.0 pods were out, there's no VGA connectors on those. That's before VGA was a thing. This was right after VGA became a thing. And so taking that VGA connector, splitting it off to a bunch of monitors, to a bunch of TVs, and figuring out how to run 12-volt TVs in here to be able to run all of that. That was just way ahead of its time in figuring that out.
And so if we kind of sit down and try to explain the whole thing, the guy comes in and he's like,
yes. So being that all of these things are networked together, right? That you're in the same game together, playing in the same one together, and figuring out how it is to make all of that work. Back in the old ones, using I actually had a set of the 3.0 pods as well, but they are, we're using a Mac with a Nobel server with IPX on it and everything. So now getting the modern TCP/IP and being able to use an IP protocol stack and being able to keep all of these things working to the point where. So we talk about a thing called SiteLink, and that was in that special as well. But we actually, after the pods were sold and we all took over as the split out ownership of all of those things, we actually went and recreated SiteLink and actually got it so that the different sites we could play together with each other. So we actually put a router out in the cloud. It was actually you could call it a firewall half link. So it was a firewall concentrator, and then we would send you a router that had some software on it, and it was the other half. Because from a networking perspective, you can't route what we're doing here. You have to bridge what we're doing here. So we had to build something specific to be able to allow that, because it's a multicast technology. And then we were able to, this is when it was, AOL Instant Messenger, we were able to aim each other over at the other sites and get everything coordinated to actually get a game together with the people in New Jersey or the people up in Minneapolis or Colorado.
So we've had games, where we had Houston and New Jersey and Colorado in the same game, which nowadays is like, yeah, big deal. But keep in mind, we're running technology from the 90s.
Right.
When's the last time you guys played a network game? When's the last time that occurred?
Network like
I'll
SiteLink.
step up and I'll
Yes.
take care of party planning.
Yeah, a little bit. We're always
Sorry,
network.
a
That would have been back in like 2010.
Yeah, it's probably 10 years ago.
So
So it was cool. It was neat to be able to do that.
COVID is not helping that right now.
The reality is that this game is about getting together with people. It wasn't as effective when you were remote from each other and you couldn't smack talk as well. You couldn't. It wasn't the same
AIM
thing.
can only do so much, right?
Right. It really just wasn't the same
If
experience.
we had Zoom at the time and could talk smack to each other live on TV, but the other thing was time zones. It's, we got New Jersey and Colorado. We got to make sure that we get online with them. And it's not like they can join in the game in progress. We have to wait. Everybody's in. There's one central hub where somebody manually puts in the parameters of the game. Are you sure you got everything? Yeah. Okay. How about you? You got everything? All right. Now let's go launch.
Yeah.
And then 10 minutes later, we got to do all that over again.
Yeah, so there had to be one console for everyone in
control
all the
everything.
different places. And so trying to coordinate what we were putting in the console amongst the different places at the same time, that was complicated and over AIM. If we did it today with Zoom, that might be different. And I really think that might be, I don't know, maybe we get back to thinking about how to do that at some point with all of the folks that are more in private locations as well now. But I could see it potentially being a thing, because SID does actually have open on a regular basis. So maybe we could do something there at some point. But there's lots of interesting things that are going on, and we are in an arcade. There is stuff that's going on back here in the back. We do what we can do within all of that.
So one of the ways that I think it's kind of ahead of its time, forcing people to use call signs, for example, that was not, in the early 90s, they Duty 2, people weren't happy to do that. And that's, now we've got, everyone has a gamer tag, right?
Yeah.
Or the pins. I would like to talk about the pins. It's sort of like a proto-achievement system.
Yes. Yep.
You know?
Yeah. So let me tell you about call signs first. So it was very interesting with call signs because all of us that played, we knew each other by call signs. We often didn't know each other's real names in a lot of the things that we were doing. I actually, I have it's a great story. I was off in Atlanta at Dragon Con, and we had left somebody back at the store who was actually operating some of the remaining pods. I think we only took 6. When did we take that? It was that first year. Maybe we only took 8. And so we probably left 8 back at the store to do that. And so Wicked is at the store, and he's operating the console, but there's a problem. So he calls me up. The cell phone is just not working well at where we are in the hotel. So I said, hey, call me at the hotel room, and we'll run it through there. So he calls the front desk, asks for room, and whatever we are, 4001, and I need it's like, and what's the name of the person? Frog? It's like, oh, that's not what I have. It's Frog. It's like, and so they actually went ahead and rang the room and said, I have somebody who's calling for a frog. I said, yeah, that's me. I said, well, that's not what I have on the register. I said, yeah, I know. And she's like, well, we need them to know the real name. I said, I don't know his real name. I don't know what you. I mean, it's Wicked, and he's talking to Frog. That's the way it is, and it's like
That's the way it's always been.
That's the way it's always been. It wasn't until Facebook. Tell how long ago. It wasn't until Facebook, when we started getting together on Facebook, that we started actually learning our own friends' real names. We didn't know each other's real names. I just didn't. It didn't come up. Yeah, that's right. And so now we can still change names, and like, so Tiger over here, he actually went through, changed his name to a new call sign, and that so he could run through the ladder matches again as a new call sign and try to get up. Yeah, so he could start at the bottom and work his way back up to the top, and he did that, by the way. So very successfully worked his way all the way to the top of our ladder.
But did you challenge yourself?
No.
I do the Spider-Man meme right now.
That's right. But then pins. So you want to talk about pins?
How many do you have left first?
Oh, well, actually now that's actually just changed. So I actually just got a big batch of pins, but I don't have any of the low number of pins. So pins, we actually were doing pins at the 25 mission level, 50, 100, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1,000. I now suddenly have hundreds of the 1,000 and 500 and 400, and then it drops off to almost nothing of the ones lower than that. And we actually did. When did we do? Maybe it was 10 years ago. We actually did another run of the 25. Did we do the 50s as well? But we did the 25 pins. So the 25 pins, which was a Mech Warrior Guild, so it's different than the rest. It's a little Mech Warrior Guild pin. And then it would start counting 50 and go up from there. And so we did we ran out of those a long time ago until just recently, and that was because we were able to get a stash of. Thanks, Sid. So Sid was able to get me his stash of pins that he had as they were closing down the shop and moving into their new location. He was willing to sell me a lot of his goodies that he had found squirreled away and those kind of things. So that was great to be able to have those. But there's a bunch of other pins that are out there too. So there's the pins for the nose arch. So do we have any other ones right here? But was there a Calamity Jane? Calamity Jane and Martian Bell and Mistress Quickly. We had pins for that, and then we did one for. We have our own artwork. So there's Attitude Adjustment, and then Death from Above, which is in the trailer. Is that what I'm wearing?
You guys have your own. You've done your own.
So that's our own. That's our own nose
That's a
artwork.
real person. Really?
Yeah. So this one here.
Is that also?
No, that actually represents somebody from the original video, from the original trailer video. So this is actually Dooley and Dr. McIntyre. So this would have been Judge Reinhold and what was her name?
Wrap it to the wall on either side. So
Oh my gosh.
Judge
I don't
Reinhold
know.
from Beverly Hills Cop.
So he was the one that actually played that.
I'm glad you remember that one.
There you go. So I actually, during Comic Palooza, he was going to be there. And so I actually grabbed the door from a 3.0 pod, which would have been what it is when he did those with big sliding doors that slid over you. I have one of those doors that we keep in the store. We grabbed that door and went over to his booth and said, so, do you remember what this is from? And he's like,
might have missed half a day of operating.
but finally when we, oh my gosh, her name is on the tip of my tongue. Joan Severson. When I said Joan Severance, he's like, that video game thing that Tim Disney took us off to Australia to do. He said, oh my gosh. He's like, so he signed it. He signed it actually as Doc McIntyre, thank you, as Doc McIntyre, and then Judge Reinhold. So it signed as both of them with him. So at that point, that's now become the intended. I can take little pieces of that off, and so when we see other people, other celebrities that were actually in that, if we get to Joan, if we get to Weird Al Yankovic,
Joan, if you're watching, we want to talk to you.
That's right. We need a signature on this door. But Arlie Ermey was in it. Weird Al was in it. Cheech Marin was in it. All those guys. So I'm gonna. That's my goal over the next. Let's call it 20 years to try to get all these people to actually sign that door. I think that'd be really cool to be able to make that happen. But
What's the other original notes?
the other original. So we have Attitude Adjustment that's over here, and we call her name is Jackie. That's actually Jacqueline Trade is the name of the character that's on that. But that's an actual person that we met in the cosplay at Dragon Con. There was actually I'll come back to that. And the other one we have. This is Dana. That is Death from Above.
No, that's Attitude Adjustment.
Is that Attitude Adjustment? Right now? Do we have any Dana ones? Maybe we have.
I thought about wearing.
Maybe we have a pin. Do we have some pins or something? Maybe. Anyway, we'll make sure that you have something that you can use for that.
Get you a picture of it.
But that's our Death from Above. But those are both original, and those are that he drew. So he drew those. This is what he does for a living, is draw things like that. So
all of the
That lady, it's her, she does have a giant.
yeah. So if you go to our website, yes, she's actually on the front page of our website and our Facebook and things like that. So that's Jacqueline Trade. It was at Dragon Con. There were a couple of our guys in camo. We have a tendency to wear camo. Sorry, I was at work, and so I'm not in camo today. But we wear fatigues and that kind of thing. So when we go to a convention, it's a show. It's a production, right? We're trying to make this fun, make this a production. We're all wearing camo. We actually got uniforms with patches and pins, all that stuff set up for what it is that we do. And there were a couple of guys that were sitting down talking about, we need a mascot. We need somebody to be able to, help from that perspective. Somebody dressed like that girl. And so they actually said, hey, you should come back with us over to these pods. She's been traveling with us ever since. She is just absolutely fit in with our group. That's another example of somebody that we met on the road at a convention who now is at all of those things, out of those different conventions. I've got a picture with her in costume and me in costume for like the last 10 years as we've gone to all of these different events. And she's come here to Houston, she's come to Austin, and so traveling back and forth. And as well, she lives in Atlanta, and so it's really easy whenever we're there at Dragon Con, she's always there with us doing things. And a great helper for us overall, and then bringing other people in that are there. So getting all of the other people together.
That's great.
Sure.
Because I got this battery sucks.
You bet.
To charge it for a half hour.
You bet.
All right. Thank you.
Sure. Here, pause.
Well, this way, you do this store, and then I don't have to cook. So.
Since we're talking about making rent and the storefront business here, I wanted to ask you about the price point, because I noticed it's basically the same as what it was in the 90s, as dollar amount wise.
It is. So we actually still have the sign at our store, we actually had the sign from Exhilarama here, the Battletech Outpost. We had that sign that was back in the back hanging up just as, because, I don't know, we have a museum of everything related to to this game. We have an entire storage space devoted to all the old stuff that goes along with this. We just, what is it? We're not hoarders. We're
archivists.
Archivists. That's it. That's the term. We're archivists of the history of all of this. But here, the pricing that we do typically at conventions is what it is that we're doing here at the new venue. So we moved here in Battlefield Houston in the middle of the year, and we're doing I think it's $7 for a single game, and $25 for a 4-pack, and $50 for a 10-pack. So you can basically get your games at $7, $6.50, or $5, depending on how many you buy at a time. And that is actually potentially cheaper than what it was in the 90s. So in the 90s on that sign, it was $7 a game?
Yeah. If you got it at the lunchtime hour.
At the lunch hour. So it actually was higher during other times. So
during the evening, weekends.
Yeah, so we've managed to keep that price point about the same. At conventions, that tends to be about the same price as well, although we actually did go up on the price at Dragon Con. Dragon Con is extraordinarily expensive for us to be at. So it ends up costing a little. We take all the volunteers to go with us, and we have 15 people that it takes to be able to go run things at Dragon Con, and so hotels alone take up a 30% of whatever it is that we take in over there is just for the hotels. And then we got to get there and get back, etc. So.
I'm sure most new players of these pods these days are through the conventions, and I wanted to ask about first player impressions, because I'm sure you see lots of people encountering these for the first time, and if that's changed at all since you started doing this 15 years ago, or if it's basically people have the same reaction to it now as they did back then.
Honestly, it's always been the same childlike wonder of going in and seeing this thing, and I can sit in it, and it's usually the families going, I can shoot him, yes, and of course we're going to encourage that.
That's like, hey, let's gang up and get
That's
down.
right. That's right. You kids go after mom and dad here, and they'll love it, and the parents love it anyway. And so it's really, and what's funny is the parents are just in as much childlike wonder as the children when they sit in this going, wow, this was back how long ago? Wow, and now you can tell from us when we hear, wow, they made these when I was born. Yeah, shut up. In the box. So even though they are now antiquities as far as gaming is concerned, it still brings out a lot of wonderful memories. You get people who come in and are just in awe that they're still around. I remember when I played these back in the early 90s, and
I went to North Pier.
Right.
That's right. We
Right.
get that every
Montreal,
convention. Somebody was at
and,
North Pier.
Yeah, and I remember when these were in Atlanta. I remember Walnut Creek. It's great to hear all those stories.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, specifically at Rooster Teeth Expo, there was one of those times, the first time we went to Rooster Teeth Expo, most of the things that are there at RTX are companies that are showing off their new games and that they're going to launch, etc. And so we had people all the time coming in, they were playing it, and they were just like, this is great, when are you guys launching that? And I'm like, before you were born.
That's right.
I mean, honestly, it was launched before you were born. So, these pods, this version of the pods, these are old enough to drink at this point. And this is version 4. So yeah, it was quite a ways back there in that.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Have you had a particularly far-flung person come to check these out and was just made made a pilgrimage out of it? Well, did any story stand out of that variety?
So we had a family come in from Australia. They came on vacation to the U.S. and part of the plan of their vacation was to make sure that they were actually doing stuff. They would hit San Antonio. They're going to hit some things around that, but they made a day specifically set aside for the whole family to come to MechCorps on a regulars night, which was a Saturday night, to come to MechCorps to come and play all night long. And it was great. It was a whole family from Australia that did that. The next week, a guy flew in from England to be able to come and play. His wife was at a bachelorette party, and he was meeting her in Dallas in another day. So he made his flight from England to come to Houston to come play at MechCorps, to play BattleTech, then go meet her in Dallas. That was 2 weeks in a row.
It's only like that far.
That's
anyway.
right. It's only that far when you look at the map, right? But we had that kind of thing happen all the time, and we still have. At the same time, when you ask me about that, we have a lot of celebrities that you would know that love to come and play. So when we're at Dragon Con especially, there's a lot of those folks who will actually make sure to come and play.
You wanna name drop a little?
Jim Butcher
Oh.
is one that loves to play the game, so he comes and plays. We've had Steve Jackson play a few times. He's actually not a very good video game player, but the idea, the concept is all great.
And he's Houstonian.
That's right. He's Austin. He's in Austin.
Well, he is now. Yeah.
But he's come and played a few times. But we have actually a whole binder full of autographed things. So when we have folks that are those celebrities, what was the whole cast of Beyond Human? Is that what it was? That all came and played one?
Gotham.
Gotham?
Yeah.
Oh no, both. We've had both. No, we've had both. We had both. There was we met the guy that was
Whitwer.
one of them. Yeah, Whitwer.
Sam Whitwer.
Yeah, Sam Whitwer was at in San Antonio, and then when we went somewhere else, he had the entire crew, and he brought them all in to come and play. Jay and Silent Bob. Jay, got his last name.
Kevin Smith. Oh
yes.
no, wait, Jason Mewes.
Jason Mewes.
There you go.
Jason Mewes, he's been by to play a few times when we've been in Houston. There's lots of those different things that happen as we go along. So always fun to be able to get those kind of things. And then, yeah.
Tell them about the folks in, was it New Orleans? Hypnotoad?
Oh. Yeah. Well, so
That kind of sticks out.
Or the Hypno Shelf.
Hypno Shelf.
Hypno
okay.
Shelf. So we bought.
Google Hypno Shelf.
That's right. Look up Hypno Shelf, the MechCorps Hypno Shelf, and you'll actually find it. And so we had this shelf that I found that actually it's got curvy things and a motor, and so it runs and it just kind of sways. But when you're looking at it, it looks like the shelves are just kind of doing this back and forth as it goes. And so the next thing you know, we've got people who are just coming into the room and going, whoa, and now they're doing a Hypno Shelf dance. And now they're going and getting other people, and they're actually coming in and worshiping the Hypno Shelf as they go through and do that. And to the point,
There was a chant.
That's right. But obey the Hypno Shelf. This is not a cult. That was the chant that happened with that. But the next thing you know, there's Hypno Shelf. MechCorps Hypno Shelves has a Facebook page. We didn't create it. Somebody else created it. There's this whole fan group for the MechCorps Hypno Shelf.
We hear that even after the con shut down for the night, those who were dancing, doing the Hypno Shelf dance with the shelf, were going up into their own portion of the hotel, continuing the Hypno dance. And then we find out, I get a video from a fan saying, "Are you guys at whatever the convention was?" We weren't there, and there were still the followers of the Hypno Shelf doing the Hypno Shelf dance at a convention we were not attending.
And they come back year after year.
Yes, come back year after year.
yeah,
to do
they
that.
They come into the store and ask,
Yeah,
can we turn on the Hypno Shelf?
We have tried to continue, but the Hypno Shelf actually was not made for being carted around, and it's broken. And now you turn it on, and it actually kind of dances across the floor until it unplugs itself. But I don't know. We were thinking maybe we.
Faithful followers.
That's right. Faithful followers of the Hypno Shelf. The queen of the Hypno Shelf is the.
I'd like to ask, Virtual World LLC is not what it once was. What is your, the business model has changed over time. You've got these independent centers now. Can you tell me a little bit about what your relationship is like with Virtual World LLC?
So Virtual World is actually still owned by Nick Smith. So Nick still owns that. It goes under the domain of mechjock.com now. He still has all that intellectual property, and then as a group, you know, all of the owners, all 12 of us, something like that. We all know each other. We all work together on things. We still try to be able to keep that the community together as much as possible. We actually have a Facebook group together where we, you know, keep up with things that are going on and help each other out on lots of various different things. But Nick has been super supportive in trying to make sure to keep this up. You think about a fan, when this was going under, went and bought the whole company in order to try to make sure that it survived. I think there were probably some thoughts that there would be lots of people who would continue to buy parts and things like that. That didn't materialize. We all learned how to fix things and keep things going. But as a group and as a community, it's been great. And we have gone through 4, 5, maybe 5 different revisions of the software in that time. So Virtual World, MechCorps, MechJock is still making sure to help make sure that the community can survive, that the software is still there and still working, that we can continue to make changes to it, see fixes happen for things every now and then as we go, and continue moving it forward. So right now, there's actually an effort to move it to a new enough version of Visual Studio that we could actually run it on a Windows 10 platform. So when we started, we were able to get things from Windows 2000 to Windows XP, and that's where we are today. But we can't go beyond that because of one particular piece that's there. So one of the guys has actually taken and been able to port the code forward through all of the revisions of Visual Studio to where it works at the last one that still works with Windows XP. And now he said, well, that next project, and it's going to take me a little bit longer, is to actually make it so that the MFDs work and we can actually get to a point of moving into using more modern hardware, more modern software, which we struggle to be able to buy we struggle to be able to buy things that still support Windows XP, that we can still, you know, make those things work. So we learn to fix things, we learn to do electronics repair, and keep those things working, to be able to keep it working. And when you find a closeout on a whole bunch of PCI 6200 or 7200 NVIDIA cards, well, you buy them all.
I have a question. This is something that I wasn't able to confirm for myself, so I figured I'd ask you guys. I know they used to have some centers in Japan.
Yes.
Have you heard anything about that recently?
Well, so there's not any centers there, but
Right.
Freeze Moon actually has a set of pods over in Japan. So Freeze Moon was one of the regular players. He used to come over here all the time to play, but he's actually he was unable to locate the pods that were in Japan. I actually have somebody who believes he knows how to find the pods in Japan. But meanwhile, Freeze Moon actually bought a set of pods, 4 pods from here in the States, and shipped them over to Japan. So he actually has a private set of pods in Japan. So there is still a set there that's in private hands. It's not public. There's only three. Are there 3 venues, or maybe only 2 venues? There's not very many venues left where you can actually go and play in a public location. So us and maybe there aren't any more. Who else is still open now? Sid will actually do by reservation, and it happens still on a semi-regular basis up in Minneapolis.
I think we are.
Montreal closed.
We're the only.
New York City, I don't know that he's ever actually managed. He's not really public. It's more of a club. Yeah, I think Pharaoh doesn't have his in, and just thinking about the whole list of all the different people that have, because we know all of these people, and I think nobody else is actually open in a public space where you can just go in and be able to play. Well, theoretically any day, but right now we're only open on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, just due to the pandemic side of things. He does have other people coming that need to come in here in a few minutes.
Do you want to take a break?
So we
or
may actually need to
move somewhere else?
To move somewhere else.
Okay,
So we may
gotcha.
see what we need to do if we need to move somewhere else.
All right. Gosh, okay. One more question.
Plenty of questions. I'm
Okay,
happy to
great.
answer questions.
One of the things that I'm noticing with yourselves and Nick Smith and your volunteers here, is that it's kind of like the company fell apart, but then all these people came together to try to keep the wheels on for as long as possible. And it's beautiful. But
Well, even so, when we picked up these pods, that was it. Virtual World was selling it all off and was going to go away, and everybody came in and kept it going.
Mm-hmm.
And then even with we've thought about trying to shut things down, and it won't let us. So even the pandemic, we're just like, well, we're not going to be able to pay rent anymore. It's like, and so John's like, I'll cut this wall out and we'll turn this room in and we'll have a place for you guys to come and do it over here when this all blows over. So we've just not been able to shut it down, which is okay, I guess. That's all right. It's not a problem.
I'd like to know a little bit about your guys' relationship with the player community that you have around here. Are there people that you've known for 15 years because of this, or?
Yeah, I would tell you that there's a lot of my friends at this point have come from this. You find your friends in the different things that you do, and there's lots and lots of people that I know at this point that are because of this game and because of the venues of getting these things together. But even I was going to say there's 3 folks that we see a lot in the volunteer stuff, and we met them in Atlanta. It turned out that they lived down the road from where we were, but they came and saw us at a convention in Atlanta, and they were like, "You're in Houston?
Where?
We're in Houston. Where? Well, we just live down the road." And so the next thing you know, they're on the road with us, going all over the place. 2 of them get married. The other ones are, we go off and we meet other folks, and that introduces.
So,
Yes.
so in movies, there's production babies. Well, there's MechCorps babies.
We actually have we may have like 4 MechCorps marriages,
Yeah.
and a few MechCorps babies within all of that have come together, where people got together because of the game.
So I talked to Nick briefly on Tuesday, and he was saying that when he purchased the company, he had some plans, but that at this point he switched into more of a preservationist mindset. And then part of that is
archivists.
Yes, right. And
Storage room will prove that.
he's had so many people that loved these pods, but had no idea they were still around in any capacity.
Right.
So a lot of people are just not aware. And then on Wednesday, I visited the National Video Game Museum in Frisco, and they have a VR exhibit. And there was not a single mention of any sort of device like this. It was all focused on head-mounted display type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What can we do to preserve these and to convince people that it's worth preserving?
So I'll tell you, we need to go and answer that question somewhere else because he has people
okay.
coming into the
All
VR
right.
suite. So let's go.
All right.
Let's go out and let's answer that question somewhere else. He keeps walking behind you and going.
Recording again. Okay.
So here we are now in the pod. This is the pod meeting. Yeah, I'm gonna switch into the pod.
1, 2, 3.
So
We're here.
okay.
Next part 2.
Oh man.
You were talking about
preservation. Yes, I'm trying, and not just, but and part of preservation is making people aware, even
Right.
that these are important and that they should be preserved. So how to how to spread that word, how to get that out to people.
And for us, a lot of that has been going to the conventions. The conventions have been that major way that people hear about us and know that they're still there, or become first aware that they're around. But doing that, keeping the store up and running, keeping it where people can still come and do things here. Those are the important things. Those are the things that are important to us to make sure that we can keep this around and keep it going. And so it's been I don't know, it's just kind of a labor of love to keep it all going, make sure that we keep the history of it going, that we do things like this, doing this video where we can actually talk about it. I don't know, 100 times I've sat down and told this story somewhere to different folks as we go, and it's important. It's an important piece of I don't know, technology history, different things like that. If you watch the special that with the 30 years that we just came up, going and seeing where Tim Disney got involved and those kind of things. It's a great story. It's a story of people who wouldn't give up on a dream, a crazy dream that they didn't have enough money to do, and somehow managed to get done. And so we're, trying to figure out how do we continue to keep it alive, keep it going, without necessarily enough income to be able to do that. Sometimes it's just one of those things. It's what we want to do, so we're keeping it happening.
One of the reasons I find these so fascinating is that you can see traits that would later become much more popular and normalized. They were very ahead of their time in a lot of ways. What would you like to? What ways would you say they were ahead of their time?
Being able to have a full cockpit, to be able to actually understand that you could, have things running and how a real world situation would be. That it's interesting because we'll get younger kids who come in who've been playing video games all their lives, and they don't know how to do anything that's not using a controller like this, and they are just totally lost when it's like, what, and they just, it's like, look, you know how to just subtly use your thumb on something, just, take it easy and use, and it's that same thing of going into from the digital realm to the analog realm, and being able to provide that, and get through that. What other things would be? I mean, the MFDs that are in here, right? So there's 3 MFDs in here. There are 5 MFDs in here, 3 at the top, 2 at the bottom. Those are black and white 5-inch CRT TVs with a piece of green plexiglass over them. And all 5 of them run off of one video feed. So there's one video feed where the left side of the screen is going to the I don't remember now, top one's the bottom one, and the right side is going to the others, and we're actually taking and splitting in a cable, the red off to one monitor, the blue off to another monitor, the green off to another monitor, but as they go in here onto a black and white TV, they all show up as white, put a green plexi on it, and now it looks green, right? And so we're able to do things like that was a really great idea for somebody to come up with in the 90s, to figure out how to be able to make these things work, to be able to do that. You have to realize also when the 3.0 pods were out, there's no VGA connectors on those. That's before VGA was a thing. This was right after VGA became a thing. And so taking that VGA connector, splitting it off to a bunch of monitors, to a bunch of TVs, and figuring out how to run 12-volt TVs in here to be able to run all of that, that was just way ahead of its time in figuring that out.
How about that they're all connected and they all share the same world?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So being that all of these things are networked together, right? That you're in the same game together, playing in the same one together, and figuring out how it is to make all of that work. Back in the old ones, using I actually had a set of the 3.0 pods as well, but they are, we're using a Mac with a Nobel server with IPX on it and everything. So now getting the modern TCP/IP and being able to use an IP protocol stack and being able to keep all of these things working to the point where, so we talk about a thing called SiteLink, and that was in that special as well. But we actually, after the pods were sold and we all took over as the split out ownership of all of those things, we actually went and recreated SiteLink and actually got it so that the different sites we could play together with each other. So we actually put a router out in the cloud. It was actually you call it a firewall half link. So it was a firewall concentrator, and then we would send you a router that had some software on it, and it was the other half. Because from a networking perspective, you can't route what we're doing here, you have to bridge what we're doing here. So we had to build something specific to be able to allow that, because it's a multicast technology. And then we were able to, this is how when it was, AOL Instant Messenger, we were able to aim each other over at the other sites and get everything coordinated to actually get a game together with the people in New Jersey or the people up in Minneapolis or Colorado.
So we've had games, excuse me, where we had Houston and New Jersey and Colorado in the same game, which nowadays is like, yeah, big deal. But keep in mind, we're running technology from the 90s.
Right.
When's the last time you guys played a network game? When's the last time that occurred?
Network, like SiteLink.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, a little bit. We're all
Sorry.
network.
Yeah.
That would have been back in like 2010.
Yeah, it's probably 10 years ago.
Yeah, 10 years ago.
So it was cool. It was neat to be able to do that. The reality is that this game is about getting together with people. It wasn't as effective when you were remote from each other and you couldn't smack talk as well. It wasn't the same
AIM
thing.
can only do so much, right?
Right. It really just wasn't the same experience.
If we had Zoom at the time and could talk smack to each other live on TV, but the other thing was time zones. It's, we got New Jersey and Colorado. We got to make sure that we get online with them, and it's not like they can join in the game in progress. We have to wait, everybody's in. There's one central hub where somebody manually puts in the parameters of the game. Are you sure you got everything? Yeah, okay, how about you? You got everything? All right. Now let's go, launch.
Yeah.
And then 10 minutes later, we got to do all that over again.
Yeah, so there had to be one console for everyone in all the different places. And so trying to coordinate what we were putting in the console amongst the different places at the same time, that was complicated. And over AIM. If we did it today with Zoom, that might be different. Now, I really think that might be, I don't know, maybe we get back to thinking about how to do that at some point with all of the folks that are more in private locations as well now. But I could see it potentially being a thing, because Sid does actually have open on a regular basis, so maybe we could do something there at some point. But there's lots of interesting things that are going on, and we are in an arcade. There is stuff that's going on back here in the back. Do what we can do. All of that.
So one of the ways that I think it's kind of ahead of its time, forcing people to use call signs, for example, that was not, in the early 90s, the pre-Doom, people didn't have, but that's, now we've got, everyone has a gamer tag, right?
Yeah.
Or the pins. I would like to talk about the pins, sort of like a proto-achievement system.
Yes. Yeah, so let me tell you about call signs first. So it was very interesting with call signs, because all of us that played, we knew each other by call signs. We often didn't know each other's real names in a lot of the things that we were doing. I actually, it's a great story. I was off in Atlanta at Dragon Con, and we had left somebody back at the store who was actually operating some of the remaining pods. I think we only took 6. When did we take that? It was that first year. Maybe we only took 8. And so we probably left 8 back at the store to do that. And so Wicked is at the store, and he's operating the console, but there's a problem. So he calls me up. Cell phone is just not working well where we are in the hotel. So I said, hey, call me at the hotel room, and we'll run it through there. So he calls the front desk, asks for room, whatever we are, 4001, and I need it. And it's like, and what's the name of the person? Frog. It's like, well, that's not what I have. It's Frog. And so they actually went ahead and rang the room and said, have somebody who's calling for a frog? I said, yeah, that's me. Well, that's not what I have on the register. I said, yeah, I know. And she's like, well, we need them to know the real name. I said, I don't know his real name. I don't know what you. I mean, it's Wicked, and he's talking to Frog. That's the way it is, and it's like
That's the way it's always been.
That's the way it's always been. It wasn't until Facebook. Tell how long ago. It wasn't until Facebook, when we started getting together on Facebook, that we started actually learning our own friends' real names. We didn't know each other's real names. I just didn't. it didn't come up. So
we're still changing.
Yeah, that's right. and so now we can still change names and so Tiger over here, he actually went through, changed his name to a new call sign and that, so he could run through the ladder matches again as a new call sign and try to get up. Yeah, so he could start at the bottom and work his way back up to the top. And he did that, by the way. So very successfully worked his way all the way to the top of our ladder.
But did you challenge yourself? I need the Spider-Man meme right now.
That's right. But then pins. So do you want to talk about pins?
How many do you have left first?
Oh, well, actually now, that's actually just changed. So I actually just got a big batch of pins, but I don't have any of the low number of pins. So pins, we're doing pins at the 25 mission level, 50, 100, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1,000. I now suddenly have hundreds of the 1,000 and 500 and 400, and then it drops off to almost nothing of the ones lower than that. And we actually did. What did we do? Maybe it was 10 years ago. We actually did another run of the 25. Did we do the 50s as well? But we did the 25 pins. So the 25 pins, which was a Mech Warrior Guild, so it's different than the rest. It's a little Mech Warrior Guild pin, and then it would start counting 50 and go up from there. And so we did we ran out of those a long time ago until just recently, and that was because we were able to get a stash of. Thanks, Sid. So Sid was able to get me his stash of pins that he had as they were closing down the shop and moving into their new location. He was willing to sell me a lot of his goodies that he had found squirreled away and those kind of things. So that was great to be able to have those. But there's a bunch of other pins that are out there too. So there's the pins for the nose arch. So we have any of the ones right here? But was there a Calamity Jane? Calamity Jane and Martian Bell and Mistress Quickly. We had pins for that, and then we did one for. We have our own artwork. There's attitude adjustment, and then Death from Above, which is in the trailer. Is that what I'm wearing?
You guys have your own. You've done your own nose art.
That's our own nose art.
That's a real person.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
So
based on a real
here.
person.
Is that also because
That actually represents somebody from the original video,
All right.
from the original trailer video.
Mm-hmm.
So this is actually Dooley and Dr. McIntyre.
Oh,
Dr.
my goodness.
McIntyre. So this would have been Judge Reinhold and what was her name?
What's
my
the
gosh.
Judge Reinhold from Beverly Hills Cop?
So he was the one that actually played the.
I'm glad you remembered that one.
There you go. So I actually, during Comic Palooza, he was going to be there. And so I actually grabbed the door from a 3.0 pod, which would have been what it is when he did those, with big sliding doors that slid over you. I have one of those doors that we keep in the store. We grabbed that door and went over to his booth and said, so, do you remember what this is from? And he's like, but finally oh my gosh, her name was on the tip of my tongue. Joan Severson. When I said Joan Severance, he's like, that video game thing that Tim Disney took us off to Australia to do all these things. Oh my gosh! He's like, and so he signed it. He signed it actually as Doc McIntyre. I think
cool.
As Doc McIntyre and then Judge Reinhold. So it's signed as both of them with him. So at that point, that's now become the intended. I can take little pieces of that off, and so when we see other celebrities that were actually in that, if we get to Joan, if we get to Weird Al Yankovic,
Joan, if you're watching, we want to talk to you.
That's right. We need a signature on this door. But Arlie Ermey was in it. Weird Al was in it. Cheech Marin was in it. All those guys. So that's my goal over the next, let's call it 20 years, to try to get all these people to actually sign that door. I think that'd be really cool to be able to make that happen. But
what's the other original nose art? You said
the other original. So we have attitude adjustment that's over here, and we call her name is Jackie. That's actually Jacqueline Trade is the name of the character that's on that. But that's an actual person that we met in the cosplay at Dragon Con. There was actually, I'll come back to that. And the other one we have, this is Dana, that is Death from Above.
No, that's actually just.
Is that attitude adjustment? Do we have any Dana ones? Maybe we have.
I thought about wearing.
Maybe we have a pin. Do we have some pins or something? Anyway, we'll make sure that you have something that you can use for that.
Get you a picture.
But that's our Death from Above. But those are both original, and those aren't
She's got the
he drew.
wrench.
So
Nice.
He drew those. This is what he does for a living, strong things like that. Right? So.
My screen's a little dim, but that lady is her, and she does have that giant wrench.
Yeah, so if you go to our website, yes, she's actually on the front page of our website, our Facebook, and things like that. So that's Jacqueline Trade. Well, it was at Dragon Con. There were a couple of our guys in camo. We have a tendency to wear camo. I'm sorry, I was at work, and so I'm not in camo today, but we wear fatigues and that kind of thing. So when we go to a convention, it's a show, it's a production, right? We're trying to make this fun, make this a production. We're all wearing camo. We actually got uniforms with patches and pins, all that stuff set up for what it is that we do. And there were a couple of guys that were sitting down talking about, we need a mascot. We need somebody to be able to, help from that perspective. Somebody dressed like that girl. And so they actually said, hey, you should come back with us over to these pods. She's been traveling with us ever since. She is just absolutely fit in with our group. That's another example of somebody that we met on the road at a convention who now is at all those things, out of those different conventions. I've got a picture with her in costume and me in costume at for like the last 10 years as we've gone to all of these different events, and she's come here to Houston, she's come to Austin, she's so traveling back and forth. And as well, she lives in Atlanta, and so it's really easy whenever we're there at Dragon Con, she's always there with us doing things. And a great helper for us overall, and then bringing other people in that
That's.
I actually sold it to the guy in Dallas. The guy in Dallas just sold his pods to the guy that I bought them from
California, so they're actually headed back to California.
Wow.
So now Berserker has 2 of the ZarkNet cards. Green Day didn't tell me that he didn't give us all of the ArcNet cards. He still has another ArcNet card in his thing. So he will actually have 3 of the ArcNet cards. And then there are 3 other people who I know have working.
What is it that fails on those, or how do they?
So it's a card that they had specifically built for them that actually goes and plugs into a Mac Tube CI or whatever, and that then talks to the IPX stack within all of the.
How do they typically break down when they do break down? Do they just pop one day, or?
Yeah, it's the same thing with our video cards. It tends to be a capacitor, but at this point, when capacitors go out on those, we can actually pull them off and put another one on and keep it going. So it's not. We have lived in a world of disposable consumerism for so long that people don't realize that you could fix something and get it back. So
if you have the knowledge.
Here's an observation. No, but this is something that I actually see a lot, is that there are people who understand the process of how to troubleshoot. They can actually understand how to do a word problem, right? They understand the process of figuring out the joystick button doesn't work. Well, if it doesn't work, I should check and see the contacts on here. Beep, 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 beep. Okay, that works. I can test it here. I'm getting to here. I can test it to here. I'm getting to here. I tested it on here. I'm getting here, but the board isn't doing anything. Okay, it's not this. It's now this, and they don't understand the process of going through and how it works. I mean, when we were talking to somebody the other day, and we were trying to figure out how to do some lighting to be able to light up a barn, and I said, at the end of the day, it's power, right? It starts at the positive, goes through, and comes out the negative. So whatever you do in between there, we can make all of that work, right? It doesn't matter what it is that you do. Unless you do LEDs, and then it actually matters which direction you go.
My specialty in the Coast Guard was I was a gunner's mate. I did a lot of I was a weapons technician on like the Mark 38, like a 76 millimeter cannon on the front of our high endurance cutters. I had to do a lot of like mechanical and electrical troubleshooting and that kind of thing. I started using it to fix pinball machines and shit. Because it was all, once I had the basic idea of troubleshooting.
But the thing is, I will tell you that in my experience, half the population can't do that.
Well,
I don't know.
I did have to go to a class for it.
But it's weird for me to not, when it's a natural thing. I don't know how you teach somebody the process of figuring out how the logical progression and troubleshooting. If you don't know how to do that, I don't know how to teach you how to do that.
Yeah.
But in my experience, yes, people just, we've actually had that thing. It's like, I guess I'll have to replace that. They can replace something, but they don't know how to fix something. And so it's very interesting, and I'm all about being able to fix whatever it was, not necessarily have to replace it. And this just ties in perfectly with that, because you don't get to replace anything.
You can't if you want to.
So we have to fix it instead of replacing things. We just can't throw it away. It's about figuring out how it goes from there. It's like that seat back there. I got to figure out how to fix we have one of the seats that won't.
Rolling? All right. So this is an illustration of what you see when you sit down in front of the pots. On your left, you're going to have a throttle. Keep in mind, this is a throttle, not direction. So it's literally push it forward, go fast, pull back to stop. When you want to go in reverse, you hold the red button, push forward to go fast in reverse. So it is not forward, back, push it forward to go backwards. On your right, you have your joystick. It is flight joystick. So you will turn left, turn right, pull back to look up, push forward to look down. Does not twist. Please do not twist the joystick. All right, so the two main buttons on this joystick you're going to be concerned with is the missile button on top and the trigger button that fires everything else. Depends on what you have. So machine guns, lasers, cannons, all those kind of things. So it's basically missiles, guns. All right, through the front windshield here, the largest one here is your main view screen. There's a targeting reticle that's in the center. The point of this game is to turn to put that reticle on top of another mech. As soon as you have it on top of another mech, it turns red. As
Oh,
soon as
thank
it
you.
turns red, you have target, you have missile lock. Hit the fire the top button, number 2, and it will launch those missiles and track that target. Okay? If that reticle is on either side of it and it is not red, you're just going to launch missiles for nowhere. Okay? So in this round, we're going to do very simple. Those are really all you got to worry about.
The pedal's not doing anything?
So this is basic mode. So this is really run, gun, shoot. Right? So once you get used to this mode, come back to us. We're going to talk about advanced mode when all of these MFDs are functional. You can custom tailor your weapons. You can affect communications, check your own damage, check maps, all that kind of stuff. The pedals will allow you to torso twist.
So you can point.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
While
So
running.
this so right now, don't worry about torso twisting. It's going to be this first round is going to be just learn how to run and gun.
Okay.
Later on, you'll be able to walk one direction, turn, and fire another direction. We'll get into that next time. So that is all we have for this round. You can find your call signs up on the pod.
Names on top.
Preferably get in the pod with your name on it.
Boom Sugar here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Do you want to stand up, give a... Awesome.
Thank you.
Hold on. Second place, Red.
Why do you want to hurt me?
Third place is Red Shadow. 5 kills, 8 deaths. Gave yourself 166 points of damage to yourself. You did not kill him at all the whole time. So, congratulations. Let's see. Frog, you got 4 kills, 12 deaths, and 1 on yourself.
I had to, but I took him out. I got kill awarded when I killed myself. That was the
important part.
That was the important part.
Moon Soother, you got 6 kills, 8 deaths, and killed yourself twice.
Yes.
Awesome.
Is that second place or fourth?
That would actually be 5th.
I don't like that map. It's a bit, I hate that map.
You're dead, like, whatever. And so, really, you were more in the middle of the field. Every time you spawn, and that is purely stolen. So, like, everybody's got a story of their call sign. Mine is purely stolen. It's like, from, hey, man, my call sign I wasn't very digital at all.
I see you're a man of culture as well.
2013, so I moved to
Signing up to
Houston.
go and do, and then if you can get filled up if you really want to go hard.
I actually had a friend who lived across the longer you go in a convention from the more days you're on and I
So just like when
went to go next door to store for dinner.
That's great.
Walking to
After
the
a while,
gas station, and so it was like restaurant, this is the old store, and gas
come out and say,
walking by.
oh yeah, they work.
And just going to grab the old gas
How do I
station.
do that?
Amazing beer.
Going
Beer
through,
selection.
what is
So we're walking by, and
25
I
pages
do
of the
like a
manual
walk,
to
and
go
then
and
I see the
each of these
silhouette
buttons
of
do, et cetera.
Mad
You
Cat
couldn't just do that over and over again.
in the
So
window,
you
and
actually
just do a double
You wait till
take.
they
It's like,
express an interest.
Wait a
Yeah.
minute, I know this. Like I know this silhouette, and it was
A lot of the balance issues.
Timberwolf, Dirty Planet, but like it was a Mad Cat like in the window.
It's terrible. It's like, holy
crap,
once you start
what is
turning stuff on,
So
you start
the
seeing
old
the weakness in
storefront
some of the
has
designs that like the Kodiak
Mad Cat, Thor, Loki,
oh,
and
this
Vulture.
is ridiculous. I can't believe this is in the game. It's like,
windows
once you start needing ammo on
But that was it, and then
this
like
thing
the
is
front door was like
terrible,
closed,
because
but
you
the
can't shoot
hours
it
are
without
when you have something that's full of lasers, you
QR
shoot it
code
once
thing.
and
So I'm like, all right, let me bring up the cell phone.
Just one shot. Yeah, you
line
only
up
get
the
one
QR
shot
code.
unless you go and split them off into different triggers, which is
I
why
saw
you
that.
have another trigger.
That's like a Friday
You
night.
actually say I want to fire half
Regular
my
training
lasers here.
Saturday, so next day I come in
Half of
and
my lasers here.
starry-eyed, like, what is this and how do I get involved?
To make it a little different.
And that was it. So that was 2013.
But especially in the longer
I guess
things like Dragon Con, where we used to run 24 hours a day.
I've been in for 4 years, already out, like moved here to civilian
Now we
world,
run
like working
5
on
days,
gas.
but
But
only run.
got
we
into
don't
this
run
and
for
like
6
saw the
hours.
bods and just
3 a.m.
again
to 9
starstruck.
a.m. we don't.
And it was like
But the rest, but now we're running.
the joystick of the bods is
We
not
get there. We're
terribly
running
dissimilar
Thursday
from
through Monday. So it's just one of those things. It gets
It's,
harder and harder to get there.
fell right into it.
You know, when the con
Had an
started,
aptitude
it would
for
come
it.
a day earlier.
Thank you, 4 years.
It would come a day earlier. The next thing you know, the con's now 5 days long.
You know,
instead of 3
and
days.
so got into it that way.
Which Dragon Con?
Fell in love.
We had
So what did you think the first time that you actually sat down and played that game?
So the first time, so I played MechWarrior 4 before.
we want to
At home
24 hours to
on a
make sure that
computer,
we're getting as much.
And I got into it, and I just had the mom
Found
that
out our first trip.
this is MechWarrior 4, but like a million times more. Right? Like the software is functionally the same, but like the cockpits of the actual like
And we had a waiting
this could like feasibly be the cockpit of a
Wow.
3 a.m. in the morning.
right? Like this.
And what year was that?
This could be it. And it was just,
The first
like,
convention that you did?
starry-eyed and like
No, this is the first Dragon.
Oh, sorry, first Dragon Con. Sorry.
this is a real thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's so.
So yeah.
It's
I
when
was
people
totally
actually try these things. There's
I
enthusiasm.
still am.
Like,
Yeah, obviously.
These guys are playing right behind you.
So you get in there, it's like this is the. It's almost like it's a real thing. Obviously, it's not. I mean, there's some 70-ton mechs, but it really handles like it is, and it really feels like it is. It's something totally different from, say, Fortnite or MechWarrior Online or like any of the other multiplayer games that we have that are modern and current and
You're good to go
cool.
for what you need to do to get it in
Like this is
event
something
mode.
totally different.
You'll hold it
Its
after
own
it's
thing.
started.
How do you
You'll hold
mission
that one
set?
down and then hit the one on the other side.
Okay.
So
Over
like a
1,000.
shift key, you
Oh,
have
right.
to hold it down. hit
So
that one
yeah,
down.
I got the
Got it.
1,000 mission pen, and so that actually is really
Okay.
funny because I think it's closer to about 1,300 or 1,400 because I didn't keep like the first two and a half years of doing this. I didn't keep the record sheets, and so I didn't start keeping the record because we didn't have the pins, right? So like we didn't have the pins, so like it didn't make any difference. I couldn't not do it, and then. Highlight actually, one of the other volunteers started getting into it and doing it, and there was some talk of maybe we can get the pins. It's like, all right, well I'll start collecting the record sheets, and he and I showed up like every Friday night for years at this point, and we're totally regular about it. And he ended up getting his 1,000 mission pin the week before I did. Even though he started a few years after me, because it's like he was really good about it, and his influence is what made me like, all right, yeah, I'll start collecting them, and sooner or later we'll get the pins. So yeah, like the week before I did, he got his 1,000 missions, and we tried for the last like 6 months. He wanted to do it at the end of like 2019. And it was like for the last 6 months, we would get in the store a little bit early and run duels, like me and him, just the two of us, no return. Run duels so that like we could get mission pins and try to get it by the end of the year. So he needed something like 300 in the last 3 months or something, and we did it. So
You mentioned that in the service you used a simulator for training, kind of similar to this?
yeah, so
I was a 1802, which was a tank officer in the Marine Corps. And up at Fort Knox, which is where we did tank training, we had, I think it was a battalion level simulator. It was a lease company, I think it was battalion level. But I mean, it was a bunch of, a bank, really, of tank sims that functioned effectively network-wise just like this, where it was, you know, here's your company or battalion of tanks, and we had tank commander, gunner, driver, all in the sims, and they were all linked together. So you'd be running.
How do I fucking
missions.
clear this
Well,
jam?
This is functionally
I got
the
this
same
jam.
thing.
I've selected it, but I don't know
You know,
what.
okay, so it's a company of mechs, tanks, but
All right.
you know, it's everybody's locked in together. Everybody's playing the same mission. Everybody's going up against each other, and it was very much the same sort of experience of, you know, force on force coming after each other, and you know, or force on, you know, AI, which, you know, the AIs are never brilliant, but it's like they're a lot better gunners than a human is, right? Because they just automatically hit because they're programmed to. So yeah, the cheaty tech, right? Like, but it really forces you. One of the things we do here is something called the level 9 bot challenge. The level 9 bots automatically hit center mass every time they fire. It's like that's their programming. They pull the trigger and it hits center mass. Well, the AI for the tank sims, same deal. Where if you turn the AI on and you let it go, it hits center mass every time, right? So it's always hitting. So the only way to beat it is superior tactics. You've got to be better in the head, because you are definitely not better in the period. The end. Not happening. It's programmed that you can't be better than it. So that's something we did a lot there. That here, level 9 bot challenge, the exact same thing on a amateur level, basically. So.
When did you start getting involved with volunteering? And what was the first time you helped out?
So I started getting involved with volunteering in 2015, so 5 years ago. So I'd been coming over to the store regularly, and I had gotten laid off at work, and so I had a bunch of free time. And so, I still came up to the store. This was what I did on Saturdays, basically the only social thing I did while I was laid off.
There we go.
But I had free time, and they're like, "Oh, well, you're always up here, decent pilot. We go on the road." What do you mean we go on the road? It's like, well, yeah, we go to conventions or whatever. It's like, I've never been to a convention. I've never been to Conpalooza here in Houston or Dragon Con or anything. I've never been to a comics convention. It's like, I'm not doing anything. I'm happy to go along. And it was great. It's an amazing amount of fun, and something that, if you're not already into that sort of thing, if that's not something you already do, you wouldn't necessarily get the chance to, but it's an incredible amount of fun. And even moving the pods in, the actual labor part of it is a great deal of fun in terms of preserving something that's really incredible, but that at this point is a little long in the tooth as technology goes,
What we
right?
got here
But
is
the technology itself, the gameplay, the construction, or whatever, was so far ahead of its time. It was so good that it sort of transcends the fact that it's old tech, right? And it's appropriate, really, because for the universe, for BattleTech, it's the best technology was Lost Tech. It's the old Star League stuff. It's it feels appropriate that older tech, something that was made nearly as old as I am.
You would basically done about 800
points. So much fun to play, and it's such a sort of gem.
You would
how many conventions do you think you've been to now that you've worked at?
excellent job early. A whole bunch right down the middle. Whereas
so all told,
decent chunk of damage, but you've got leg,
10 conventions, give or take, at this point.
you've got a little torso,
Favorite part
you've got a little arm.
is either the wonderful living conditions of everyone cramming in like sardines going to conventions, and the camaraderie that engenders, or the drive to it. So all the balls are really lovely people, and it's a lot of fun making the drive to and from either in a car with a bunch of people,
It's useful
and
to know.
it's all cramped, and like, obviously we're doing it because of love of the game, so to speak, as opposed to because we're rolling in cash
Nice.
for doing it, right?
Awesome.
So everybody's really, really cool. Everybody's really fun to be around, and like everybody's really loved for doing it. And so more so than like most things you deal with in life, people are there because they want to be. And that leads to like a lot of really fun, interesting people that you wouldn't otherwise
Yeah, I got stuck on a wall for a minute there.
get to interact with, getting to spend time with them. And yes, in sort of
Right.
close quarters and trapped in a room or a car and whatever, but it's so much fun. Like it's a really community building activity sort of deal. So
As a veteran myself as well, when I started doing research on the background on these, with the Lost Tech documentary, they talk about the whole bridge simulators, aeronautical simulators.
I don't need to see a guardian.
I have been thinking a lot lately about this intersection of the military and video games in a lot of different aspects. Like there's the business relationship, or like they explored VR way before it was ever available to consumers.
And you can
And then there's
can
the
you
training
still pop
aspect,
ejection
right,
pods
where,
to delay respawn, or?
You know, you lose. These aren't realistic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
well, it's funny. So like, they are and they aren't.
Right.
And they say that you know you've got to suspend realism for a moment to recognize that bipedal mechs, right? They're not a viable weapon. Like you're just not. It's not. Bipedal bush is inherently unstable. Like the weight distribution of something that's 7,500 pounds on 2 feet. You're going to be sinking into the ground. You can't go across bridges. You can't move. So there's a certain suspension of disbelief. There's a certain suspension of physics and realism that comes with this. On the other hand, some of the things, NARC beacon, C3 systems, the sort of coordination between lance mates.
How often does it even get played anymore? Because you don't play
depending on what sort of scenario you're
it's not
in.
advertised.
Some of that is very devoted communication required.
Yeah.
And the
So
understanding
how
of
often
the
do you
capabilities
guys
and
have to
limitations
do?
of different
They
vehicles.
happen upon
Some of it
request.
really does translate
But like
the
every couple months,
situational
every
awareness,
couple
the knowing
a
where
couple
you are,
times a
where your
year,
lance mates
or-
are, and how you want to
Some of the
engage
regulars are not
certain
here.
enemies.
It's probably like months.
Does
A couple times a
is
month.
a real thing, and it's
But
something that
those who come
skills
in
that you
and
would have,
understand what
say,
they
from
are,
the military.
that's one of the first
do
questions.
translate.
Yeah,
And-
because
and,
it's the only way to
are
play
really
it. Because you can't
and
fucking. It's the only
one of
way.
the things that I think
Oh.
a lot of the newer players don't appreciate
In the same way that
range bands.
player,
Like certain
first time you
weapons
play
are great at
it, you
certain
play in
ranges.
arcade mode.
Like
That's
certain
why
mechs are great at
you want to
certain
play
ranges.
something a little more challenging.
Yeah.
And then one of our
And knowing how to
regulars goes,
exploit
so
that
you like to use games that way, right? You know there's another game?
It's something that
And then they want to know
this really does well as a simulator. And then certain mechs
Or
do
like
certain
they did.
things really
A lot of
well,
times,
and they do
some
certain
people
things
who actually
very
or
well.
will come up at a convention and go,
So there's more
Wouldn't happen to
overlap there
have.
than you look and
Help
you think
our brother
just
out.
from
Yeah.
a quick look at the software.
You know, one of
how
the
would
thoughts
you
I've had
say
about
this-
how
your
we,
relationship
if you could
with
potentially
these
preserve
pods,
this sort of this experience without the physical pods.
Yeah, so I
have anyone considered
So when
like
I-
VR
when I got
emulation
here-
of these cockpits,
Exactly,
like
I
they
got
do
here
for
in
some
2013.
flight simulators in
Every-
VR?
I didn't know
I
a
know
single
that there are
soul
some guys
down.
talking about that.
There was
Because that'd be one
other
way to keep it alive in some sense,
one
even
other
once all these end up
officer who ended up
in the
being
dumpster
here
somewhere.
shortly thereafter. So yeah,
There's
one
different lines
person.
of thought on that. I know
Otherwise, all of my
the
friends,
modern
everybody I knew was
crowd, the younger
people I
crowd,
worked with.
would probably like to go that direction.
Now
I'm more old school. I like
for the
tech.
last
Well, here's
tactile.
2.5,
yeah,
3
I know.
years.
But here's what I'm thinking is that like
I've spent
in the
like once
universe
a month, I
conceived the
GM
VGL,
Battletech,
you sell them
which
as
is the VIP,
training software, and then
I
you say
GM
this
a
is
tabletop
just a taste
Battletech
of what
game
you
with
could have if you actually
5
show up here and play this. In the
So,
same way that showing
I have
people at
guys that I
conventions,
hang
they
out
make
with
it easier
outside of
to
this, on my
show
free
this
time.
stuff to people, and then you say,
that
well, this
I
isn't the
talk
real
to
experience.
every
You
other
want the
day
real
or so
experience,
on,
you come over here. Like,
Facebook
Yeah, that's
Messenger, drink,
I think I'm gonna say that's
and we talk regularly.
like
oh,
We're all friends
I
now
know.
because
I've been
this.
thinking about all this
Yeah,
stuff
no, I get
lately.
you. I get
Yeah.
They're a couple of balls that
as
that
far
aren't
as
on that,
technology
that
is concerned,
again, I talk to for regular
happen
friends
now.
just
Yeah.
because
It's that good.
this hobby.
It hasn't been well enough to do. I mean, we
It
all
really is
know,
outside of word.
Was it the Steel Battalion when they
Yes.
tried to
Maybe the most
Yep.
think like, but I mean, it's getting to the point where it's more likely. But yeah, there's a whole lot of license.
No.
Yeah, well, I hear you.
No, Tiger comes from the fact that I was attached to 2-2 Warlords, which is infantry battalion.
I'll probably just go with something basic to get my
And we're
bearings
on
again.
22nd view.
I haven't played it since 2012. So
They needed a call sign for tanks. And they were like, you know, it was one of those things where they forgot to like say, hey, everybody figure out your call sign. So we're like in a meeting
something like that.
with the battalion commander, being like, what's everybody's call signs? Like AAVs, tanks, like, and you're sitting there on the spot and it's like, TT and Tiger.
Screaming broccoli.
Cool. That was it.
Screaming broccoli.
All right, let's do this.
Actually, so for fun stories, I do actually have one story that I want to tell. The best con story I have was 2018.
That you would like, you get to pick a color.
19, I think it was last year actually, 2019.
Yellow.
So
And then if you
every year for the
yellow, you
cons,
also then use a,
Dragon Con particular. So we have
color
most
pattern.
kills,
So,
highest
Celtic,
score,
desert, flame,
and
giraffe, Hawaiian.
most suicides.
Lion, sure.
Those are the three things we get up on.
All right, for you.
And so, you know, people compete on this, and it's a whiteboard. It's just, you know, basically the traditional high
So
score.
we're talking about a hovercraft.
So there was she was probably like 10 or 11 years old, like a young girl
Flying at a low gravity.
who was there with her brother and her dad.
Kind of a flying game,
And like, she realized she was not going to win high school. She wasn't going to
The
win
lower
like
the
skills.
ground you are, the faster
She was like,
you go.
I think I can get the most suicides. And you know, we're setting up the console and she's telling us like, all right, so how exactly do I suicide? You know, and we went through and it was like, all right, so if you have to get legged, you hit the eject button and you go. It's like, okay. So she did that a few times and she did pretty decent. I think it was like 5 or 6. It's like, it was,
You don't know how to fly this.
she won for a minute, but then like somebody else had more suicides. And she was like really upset because she was like, I really like I can't get the other ones, but I really think I can get this one. I was like, all right. So we ended up going through, and she must have played, I don't know, 10 or 15 games. And like each game, she was just trying to get suicides and doing great, but not quite getting there. And it's like finally we set up a game where it was like, you know, we went. Started turning on features to help her out.
Expert 6.
You
What
know,
that
and
means
like
is
game
that
15.
left and right
She goes
are
in,
side flip
she's
left
a
and
Hollander
right.
2
So it becomes
or a
like
Hollander.
flying. Pushing down makes you
And,
go down,
you
pulling
know,
back
figures
makes
out,
you go up. So it's
I
like
dump
flying.
all my
Your
ammo.
pedals are a rudder. They turn you left and right.
I can self-destruct.
They turn the
And
vehicle.
so
Keep in mind
he was
that you
on,
can turn the vehicle and
or excuse me,
continue
he was
going
off,
that
but
direction.
ammo was
It takes a
on,
while
which
for
is
it
the
to get
regular
you
basic.
flying into that.
If you don't press any of the buttons except basic, that's
It's
what
a hovercraft,
happens, right?
So when you're closer to the
And it's
ground,
like,
you'll
okay,
go faster.
you got
But
this.
you also, there will be
And
times
she-
when you need to go higher.
she went up,
If you need to go higher
and she would just
and
spawn in,
get there,
dump in,
there's a
and then
technique
go
that you
running
use.
for the nearest enemy
The trigger
and
is actually
self-destruct.
going to be
And it's like
lift.
she
What
had
that does is it
20
takes your
some
fans
odd
turn them backwards.
suicides,
And so you
which
actually
each
drop,
suicide is
but
minus
you go
500
faster.
points.
But you
But her
drop when you do
total
that.
score
So there's a
for the
technique where you can
game
actually
was only like
lift
minus
that,
3,000
push
because not
down
only did she
right before you
suicide,
hit the ground, let go
but
and pull back.
she went in and got up in everybody's
bounce
face
up
and did it,
off the ground.
and
So you can
and
get
got
the
something like
obstacle,
15 or
things
16
like that.
kills in the process.
When you run into somebody else,
She
hard
came
enough,
out of it, and you
and
could
that will actually
see
kill
as
you.
she left the
And then what
pod,
we're doing,
the
we're
glow
going
in her
to be on
face,
a-
because she
on
knew
a,
she nailed it.
a
It wasn't
mine
like sort
that
of,
actually
kind of,
has
like
the
I'm
bump
not sure how I
middle,
did.
and there's
It was
actually
pure joy.
drill, a
of
laser drill
not
down here and
only
down
did
here,
I
and there's
succeed
gonna be a
in what I
little
set out to
score
do,
zone
and
that
she
will
had
mark
like
on the floor.
21
You're
suicides.
going to want to
right?
actually hit the score
So,
zone. And
not
then
only
come
did I
back up.
succeed in what I set out to
You
do,
go back and forth.
but like I was competitive in the game, and she did. And it was like by
So it'll
rights
just be
she
a-
should have been
a
at
simple
minus
score
10,000
zone,
points.
down to
At the end of the game, she was just shy of minus 3,000.
Yep, go around the pylon.
And again, blew away the competition in suicides. And it was like the joy, just the pure joy, trollishness of the whole thing was priceless. I'll never forget it. Like, so much fun.
Where else can you have like a career? Suicide bomber.
I mean, it was brilliant. I mean, it was absolutely great. And it was like, you want to talk about like people having just childlike joy. I mean, that was a child who just had absolutely pure, unadulterated joy. Not being the best pilot in here, but just playing the game. You know, and it was great. It was so much fun. It totally made my car. So that was
Funniest suicide story I've ever heard.
yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, it was so good. And her call sign was Stinky, too. That was the other one. Is her call sign was Stinky, which somehow just felt right for what was going on, you know? So.
And then lost it.
Yeah, Clay.
Martyr, you know, you just quickly went and stood, you know, firmly in third place there. You got almost had it at the very end. Almost got it. Yeah, and then Frog, I just went through and then die. It just kept me down there. Fifth place for Red Shadow. And we got sixth place, still and a positive score. That doesn't always happen the first time.
One lap. Good Lord, what happened?
16 deaths.
What was your fastest lap?
How many times did you kill me there, Tiger? 9.
109?
Damn, look at 108.
Damn.
By a fucking second.
Your turn.
I was the person.
Okay, so name, I guess let's start with this. Name and call sign and tell me the story behind your call sign.
I don't really have one. My first name is Clay, and my call sign is Marty. I just made it up. I was driving. It took me about 45 minutes to drive to MechCorps, and the first time I was doing it, the first time I saw MechCorps was at Cyphercon in Charles. I grew up in that area, and I went there to see an old friend, and he said, well, there's this comic book convention. You know, I was going to go, why don't we go? And I was like, fine, let's go. And then I saw the pods, and I remember playing them at Dave & Buster's. So I was like, oh, I remember these. I was like, where are you guys? And they said, Houston. I was like, okay, Houston. So after that, I went just about every Saturday. And on the way up, I was like, I don't know, came up with Martin.
How many missions have you run?
I don't even know. I stopped keeping they ran out of pins 1,000 years ago, so I never bothered. After I got in the guild, I never bothered keeping them put. I'm sure it's way over 1,000.
The guild?
Yeah, when you get 25, you get your picture taken by one of these fine individuals, shaking their hand, and you get a pin to put in a jacket or something, and you're in the guild. Never had figured out what that meant.
And when did you start getting involved in volunteering?
They needed somebody to go to New Orleans, which was MechaCon. And I probably have gone to 6 or 7 cons. And the big one is in Atlanta. It's Dragon Con. There's something like 70,000 people there. And the year I went, we were running the pods. We didn't stop. So we ran it 24 hours a day for 5 days. And we ran it on a swing shift. So you may wake up at 10 a.m. the first day, the next day you get up at 2 o'clock, and then before you know it, you're getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning and you're running 8-hour shifts. And you're like, what am I doing this? And, you know, pretty soon, you know, you're standing around for 8 hours, your feet hurt, and you deal with a bunch of drunk people. But, you know, it's still a lot of fun. And you get to, especially at a Dragon Con, there are all these, I don't even know what to call them, but all these events that you can go to. And it's exhausting and fun at the same time.
When you guys travel to a convention, how many people do you bring with you to all told?
How many people do we bring? Well, it depends on, obviously Dragon Con, we probably bring 15 or 20 people. Something like OwlCon is something I've never been to. It may only be 5 or 6. Another one is the one at the George R. Brown Convention, the Houston one. That's a fairly big one as well. We may bring 15 people to that one.
What's your favorite part of working conventions?
Leaving.
The worst part of it, Tiger was right. The best part is when you're on your way. I remember going to Dragon Con. You get up at like 2 in the morning. You get to where there's a rally point, and you leave your car at a storage area. And we couldn't find the keys to the truck that year, so it probably took us an hour. We were an hour behind, just because somebody couldn't find the keys. And then you have different truck. We had a truck driver that was part of our group, so he actually had the license to drive a big rig truck. So I was in his rig, and Frog was driving the other one. So we were split. Different people were in different trucks, and you get to know the people that you're in the truck with pretty well. And the funny part is, as has been said before, people know you by your call sign. So you're involved in a whole community, and they don't know me as Clay, they know me as Martin. And sometimes when we're going to a convention, there's a Facebook group for the people that are going, and people start out with their real names, and they're all chatting and talking, and they're like, who's that? So we have to change our name from our real names to our call signs.
That's great. How many conventions do you think you've done?
I don't know, 6 or 7.
Did you have any good stories? Or?
Yeah, the first time I went, it was a MechCorps, and again, there was a history there where the people that had this shelf had sort of moved in a hypnotic way, and I was sitting around standing, talking to people, and all of a sudden this young lady comes in and runs right up to Frog and obey the hypno shelf. This is not a cult. Like, what have I got myself? What is going on? And it's very strange. And we measure how easy the cons are by how many flat tires we had. Hey, we only had 2 flat tires this con. That was easy. And we were on our way, I think, to MechCorps or something. And Frog was ahead of us, and all of a sudden I just hear this giant explosion, and I'm like, oh my God, what happened? And they're like, hey, I just had a flat tire. And normally a flat tire is like a big deal, but these guys have flat tires so much they carry like 3 or 4 tires ready to go. They're all pumped up, ready to go. So we pulled over, and 10 minutes later we're back on the road. Yeah, no big deal. So that sticks out in my head. It just at Dragon Con, just loading in. I mean, it takes a day and a half to get from Houston to Atlanta. So you're fairly tired, you're strung out from the road, and now you've got to set all this stuff up. But the worst part is at the end of Dragon Con, you're just absolutely blown away and exhausted. And it's all you can do to stand up. Now you've got to pack everything again and bring it into the truck and go home for another day and a half. Oh, why am I doing this? And it's just one thing that really sticks out in my head is the community. I was telling these guys earlier, the pods get beaten up. They take a lot of abuse on the roads, and then after the convention season at the store, people would come in, the very tech-savvy group as a whole, and they would come in and they would start to repair the pods. And I remember one day when they were doing that, I don't know anything about it, and half the pods were disassembled. There was all this stuff on the floor. People were just running around fixing stuff, and I leaned over and I told Muerte that it's amazing how passionate that the group is, that they take time on their own to come in on a Saturday like at noon or something, and they're fixing the pods, and then they work till 6, and then we put everything back together, and then we start playing at 6, and then we leave at midnight.
What do you think it is about the pods that's engendered this, I'm trying to think of the right word for it, love?
Sense of community, the love.
Get away!
It's just, if you like, there are people that like video games and there are people that don't. And I think if you're the kind of person that likes a video game, this game is simple. It can be simple, but if you turn it into advanced mode and start programming, like if you're playing in advanced mode, your weapons generate heat, your mech can shut down, so then you can start programming, spreading your weapons around on different buttons to dissipate the heat or not generate as much heat. So it can be as complex as you want, or it can be as simple. as you want. It just depends on how you want to play. And you know, Saturday night, a bunch of people can come together and they don't have to talk about work. They can just have fun doing what they want to do. They can get pizza, bring it in, or Cokes or beers or anything. They can, you know, they can let the weight of the world off their shoulders.
So knowing how much work it is to go to the conventions, why still go to the conventions?
I don't know. It's just, you know, several of the times, you know, you guys called or and said, hey, you know, somebody dropped out at the last minute. Hey, man, can you fit in? I was like, yeah, sure. And there was one time I started a company and there was a number of people that worked for me. And, you know, it was one of these times these guys called, hey, somebody dropped out, can you come? And I was like, okay. And I didn't check back into work, and they were convinced that I was dead or something. When I got back in, they were like, "Oh my God, we were trying to call you all this time. Where were you? What happened?" And you know, it's just one of those things where you kind of had to drop everything and go.
But it's that sense of community that we've all become friends, and we want to make sure that we continue to do whatever is needed. It's just what you did.
Thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
No, that's about it.
Okay, thank you very much. Would you guys like to? How much time is it?
We have 5 minutes.
Oh, shit. Well, do you want one question maybe? Maybe if there's anything you guys want to put out there? I mean, is there a chance to say anything if you have anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, I mean, so for us.
Oh, sorry.
Am I not in the thing?
Closer to the. Yeah.
There we go. I mean, for me. There you go. It's just one of those things where the goal here really is to build a community. We actually have thought it'd be nice to be able to do something here where we could actually make a living off of this, but we realized a long time ago that wasn't going to happen. So we're making it run, making it operate, keeping it going, and just continuing through. As we get tired, want to figure out what to do. It's like, man, there's all of this stuff of what we have to do. Booking everybody to get everybody into the conventions that we need to do, to make sure we have the staff volunteered up for that. When parties call and we need to be able to get party things taken care of, and it's just all of this. So we told everybody we think we're gonna, we might just stop, and everybody's like, well, I'll take on taking care of all of that. So Meep has been taking care of our party planning for 6 or 7 years now, right? So those emails come through, phone calls come through, she returns those phone calls, returns those emails. She was the one that got the email from you, forwarded it over to me and said, hey, you might want to talk with this guy. And we just, we keep those things going. Diablo takes care of getting everybody together for the conventions and make sure that we have enough volunteers to be able to run that, puts the shifts together, takes care of all of those things. Where they still putting together and doing newsletters, press releases. We have other people who have done that from time to time as we go through and create that. So it's just awesome having a community of people who want to do this, and it's been a real struggle for us in this pandemic time frame, not getting together with each other all the time. And so we're used to seeing each other every week and doing those things. So during when it first started, we actually lit up the Twitch channel and started going through and sitting down. We'd go over to when Tiger was GMing the board game, and actually, put that out there for people to be able to watch. When you got 50 subscribers on a Twitch channel playing a board game, the first week, you're just, it's like, you still have this community that still wants to get together, still wants to interact, still wants to do things, and so we just continue to go from there. And now as we get through the point of moving here, all these guys, there were a few of us that, we did a lot of trying to move things here. But it was just as much a bunch of the other folks who got together and helped disassemble the store, move everything over here, reassemble everything, get it into store, get some of our other stuff over into storage and take care of those things. So it's awesome having this community of friends who will just, take care of whatever needs to be taken care of for us to be able to keep this going. And now it's just started, we're just started talking. It's like, we need to go ahead and get it back to where we have regular we know where everyone's coming up here on Saturday nights or whatever night it is that we're going to do. So people are starting to put together, volunteer to say, I'll come work Saturday night and run the console so we can get everyone there. I'll come do it on the next Saturday, etc. So we're just starting that. That's just starting up again. We'll start that next week or so to actually have our regular series of things that are going on here. So we have a few different restrictions we have to deal with. We got masks that we get to wear when we're not less than 6 feet apart. But you don't have to wear a mask when you're in the pods. You can be isolated in there. And then we've got all the cleaning stuff, and we get to clean the pods after all the games and that kind of thing. So fortunately, when it first was happening, one of our guys actually said, we're going to probably want to get some Lysol wipes. So he went and bought several packages of those and gave them to us so that we can actually clean all the pods. So we still have Lysol wipes that we've been able to use to be able to keep this going. When they've been gone for 6 months, but we still have some around because of that. So it's been great having a community, and that's really, I think, what it was that we saw when it was at Dave & Buster's that was missing, was to organize a community and to get people together and realize it's not just this money-making arcade game that sits over here and you don't do anything with it. It's something where we actually get together, and getting everyone together is what it is that makes it fun. And why it is that something that's 20-something years old, the software is even, almost 20 years old, is still relevant today.
Okay. That's the one thing I've noticed is that, in my life, at the different intersections, I've come across these things, and like the airlock in Washington, for example.
Yes.
And every time I've shown up to them, there's always a community there.
Yes.
It's always very tight knit. And then I mentioned the pods that I played in Colorado, and the guy that works in the store, oh, you mean so and so?
Yeah.
Knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's Pharaoh. His real name now we know is Craig. Hey, it was Pharaoh.
It's remarkable. It's something that's kept me interested in this, even not even being able to play it. Just knowing that it's out there, that there's a community of people getting together to do this kind of thing.
That's right, and people, it just becomes ingrained in people. So the 3.0 pods that I had, I ended up actually selling to a guy who, he was at Dragon Con, and he came up and he saw that he was like, these are like the next generation of the pods I used to play in Pasadena. He played the 3.0 pods in Pasadena. So I used to play those. I was in the Navy, and we went out on maneuvers and came back, and it was gone. But I played it all the time, and then they just disappeared. And I haven't seen them now for 15 years. And you have these pods here. I said, yeah, I still actually have some of the old ones and everything. And so it turns out that what I actually had a set of the pods from Pasadena. That's where they had come from. They'd gone through back and forth across the country a couple of times, and we had just hauled them back from Pasadena again. They actually ended up back in Pasadena again. They went across to Michigan, back to Pasadena, and back out here. He was like, would you sell them? I'm like, dude, I don't know that you, all of the electronics it takes to be able to keep these things up and running and operational. He's like, dude, I was an electronics technician in the Navy. I'm an oscilloscope guy. I can sit down and work. I'm like, all right. He's like, I really don't want to sell them. I have no interest in it. So just name a price. And I'm like, and so I told him I don't want to sell them for this price. And he said, do you take PayPal? And I'm like, crap, I just sold my pod. I didn't intend to sell those, but I wasn't going to refuse. This is the amount of money I wasn't going to refuse. So I ended up actually selling them to him. He had me actually put them in a storage locker for him, and then he was going to work on how to get out from Jacksonville and be able to pick them up. He never was able to do that. He ended up, with some medical bills, and ended up turning around and selling them to another guy that we know that actually has probably 2 more sets of those pods. And he came out, met me, got the key, saw them and everything, said, cool, closed the door, and those pods are still next to my house in a storage locker where they have been for 7 years probably in that storage locker that's just around the corner from my house, where somebody's paying storage for them to be there. And I'm just like, and I have actually reached out to him multiple times, like, you interested in selling those again? And it's like, you haven't come and got them. And he's like, no, they're good. Just my spare parts for when any of these, fail. I'll be able to have the spare parts I need to be able to keep them running. So we reached out to him multiple times, and actually the guy in Pasadena that I bought those pods from, he's actually now bought the set that's up in Dallas, and he and I have been talking, and I think I'm going to end up actually delivering them to him, so there may be a chance to be able to do that. And I've actually been talking to the other guy and said, while I'm going, I could fit these on the trailer. Do you want me to bring them? I can bring them to California. So he still needs to get them up, further up into Seattle to be able to get them where he needs them. So it hadn't worked out yet, but it's like, I could make a triangle if you want to do that. And he's like, nah, they're still fine where they are in storage. So they're there. So I'll let those people identify themselves. I'm not going to identify everybody that has both pods. You can actually go. I think it's on Virtual World's. Is it on the wiki page or is it on the? It's on the Facebook group for Virtual World. If you go to Virtual World Entertainment Facebook group, there's actually, I think, a sticky post that actually has a link to a Google Sheet that actually shows where all the pods are. So anybody who said that I do have pods, you can actually find details there. Other people, there are ones that are listed there, the ones that are in private hands. And we've actually come across somebody else who says they have a set of pods in a warehouse, actually in Texas. He bought a set of these with the former hardware in them, so same shell but former different hardware in them, and says he has a set of those. We haven't been able to verify that and to be able to go and validate that he has them, but he had pretty darn intimate knowledge for me to not believe that he actually did have a set of those. But he used to own a car dealership here in Houston. He used to play with his son all the time over at Dave & Buster's, and at some point after selling the car dealership, he actually bought pods so he could take those and play them. Get his son to come over where he was, over near Louisiana, and actually be able to play there. And so it's one of those random stories that comes along when somebody walks into a con and goes, "Oh my God, I thought these were all gone," but they are actually still operating. It's not lost tech. We actually have the thought of that, but the tech is still going. It's still running. We're going to keep them running. There's nothing we haven't been able to figure out how to get around at this point. We lost the guy that actually used to rebuild the Rio boards for us, so now it's time for us to learn how to do that, right? Set up a crash cart, learn how to work our way through all of those pieces and parts and keep those going. So that'll be the next thing. But we have a whole community of people who will figure it out and we'll keep it all running.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's cool. All right, thank you.
No, thank you. Really. Excellent stuff.
Now say you love the Hypno Shell.
I love the Hypno Shell.
There we go.
We're putting this on YouTube.
Don't worry, it's going on YouTube.
Be entranced by this amazing Hypno Shell. If
Yes.
you stop elbowing me, I might. You're the one who
You want to join in Misery?
I'm tempted.
Come on! Come on, 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 come on. I feel like this is something that should be in invaders now. They made new weapons.
What just happened?
No joy.
Major system error.
No joy? No joy.
No joy.
Oh, wow.
And yet more victims for the Hypno Shell.
I keep stumbling. Because I'm so tired, because I've been doing it for like 40 minutes. 40, we're not joking.
Nah, I'm good.
This is fun.
This way I can do this.
Names on pods, gentlemen. Names on pods. Get over here.
Get the pod!
Missions, the old location was an extra 30.
Yeah, but then there's all those 1-on-1s.
Yeah, well, and then you got the duels in there. And the duels were quicker.
1.5.
Well, except I am not a quick duelist because I always do the like passive radar. Let's see if I can get a good clean shot before the other guy sees me thing.
Right.
So that burns 4 to 5 minutes before we ever see each other, which is. Again, there are shiesty tricks to dueling. So that's always.
Then some console operator like me would put you on, big city.
Yeah.
Opposite ends of the.
Thousands miles away.
Take you 4 minutes if you knew exactly where.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
There's one last photo on this. I want you to take it.